There we go. All right, everyone. Hello, the Sustainability Advisory Committee. You are now live.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Chair Anna Priest, and I would like to welcome you to the Sustainability Advisory Committee meeting for January 2021. We made it through. All right. We're going to share the agenda now. Thank you, Kira. And we need to call this meeting to order. All right, so the first item on our agenda is to approve the September minutes. Now, in order to approve the minutes, I'm going to ask for someone to make a motion and then a second, and then we will do a roll call to either approve or deny the minutes. All right, did I hear Keith, you were gonna make a motion?
I'm happy to make a motion to approve the minutes from September.
All right, thank you, Keith. Would anyone like to make a second?
Happy to second.
Thank you, Maggie. Now, are there any edits to the minutes? I know that Anne had a couple edits, but I think we've made note of those already. Does anyone else have any other edits? All right, in that case, I'm going to call on you all individually to answer yay or nay on whether you approve the meeting minutes. I'm going to go down the list that I have here in front of me. So hopefully you all are here. All right, we have Kim Austin. You'll have to unmute yourself in order to respond.
Looks like she dropped off.
Okay, we'll go on to the next one. Allison Ormsby.
Yay.
Thank you, Allison. Ann Keller.
Yay.
Thank you, Ann. Chris Embry Pellerine.
I approve.
Thank you, Chris. Maggie Felix.
Hi, this is Kim. Sorry, I approve.
Thank you, Kim. All right, Maggie. I didn't catch yours.
Yay.
Thank you. Stephen Barron.
Yay.
Very good. Thank you, Stephen. And Timothy Orman.
Yay. You can call me Tim.
Thanks, Tim. I knew that, but I wanted to make sure everybody else did. All right, did I miss any SACEE members, voting SACEE members?
I also approve.
Oh, thank you, Keith. I'm sorry.
No
Thank you,
problem.
Keith.
I'll approve with an aye.
All right. Okay, so it looks like our September meeting minutes are approved. Okay, next on the agenda is public comment. Because of the virtual nature of this meeting, all public comment goes through our virtual engagement hub, which is accessible through the virtual engagement hub link that we're going to include on our chat. I think one of the city staff members is going to do that for me. And then any comments that we do receive or did receive, which I don't believe we've received any, we will read off at the end. But it doesn't look like we have any. So we'll move on to item number 3 of our agenda, which is updates. And item 3A is the update on the state engagement of clean energy policy. And Bridget Herring is going to give us that update.
Thanks, Anna. Bridget Herring, Energy Program Coordinator with the Office of Sustainability. So just to give you a little reminder, when we embarked on trying to determine different strategies that would help us reach our 100% renewable energy goal, what we found is that one of the most impactful things that we could do was advance renewable energy procurement in the state and utility regulatory framework. That there was a lot of progress that could be made that would enable the city and our community to further utilize and access renewable energy. And so I just wanted to give you all an update that the city of Asheville and myself was asked to participate in a group that was part of the Clean Energy Plan recommendations. So from February to December, I participated in a group with a number of other North Carolina stakeholders in what's called the North Carolina Energy Regulatory Process to consider updates to the regulatory regulations and the electricity market structures. That group came together with a number of recommendations that have anything to do with decoupling, the utility, to talking about how to retire coal plants more economically, to talking about performance-based mechanisms, for the utility in terms of like carbon reduction and equity and a number of other structures. So just wanted to give you an update on that piece of work. There's the findings and the report out from that project are posted on the Department of Environmental Quality website. And we're working with our communications team to write a blog kind of summarizing this activity with links. So I just wanted to give you a heads up that that's coming and let you know that we are, working in that space. So if anybody has any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I'll turn it back to Anna.
Are there two or three top recommendations that you could share with us now, or is it just better to just refer to the report?
I think the performance-based rate making is something that's really interesting that comes along with that, where you're tying, it's really complex and a lot of the things have to come together. And so, we kind of walked through the process of looking at a bunch of different options and trying to combine them together. And so you can't necessarily have one without the other, but I think, kind of breaking apart the idea that the only way the utility can continue to be profitable is to make energy that's consumed. So trying to figure out a way to break that down and then also to, incentivize the things that we're looking for, like in terms of carbon reduction. So making sure that they're also being compensated for providing more clean energy or providing access for, low and moderate income, ratepayers, or for instance. So I think there's just some exciting stuff in there, and it'll be interesting to see if this work continues to advance in the coming year.
Thanks.
I think Steve raised his hand as well. Do you have a question?
Bridget, I just wanted to know if you had any sense at this point about what next steps are now that the report is out.
So I think that, the state, the governor's office is taking these considerations and reviewing them. And I think that there's work amongst some of the other stakeholders to work with the General Assembly to see if there's any appetite to take up some of these pieces. So there's even like draft legislation in this group. And so I think the next step is to figure out the desire, what stakeholders are interested in kind of moving the work forward.
Are there any other questions or comments? You can either unmute yourself now and speak, or you can use your raise hand button on the Google chat menu.
That's exciting work, Bridget. Thanks for participating in that process.
right. If there are no other questions or comments, we'll move on to the next update. 3B on the agenda is update on climate justice initiative, and Amber Weaver is going to give us an update.
Yes, we just wanted to make you all aware. And Kara, if you don't mind clicking on the link, we have taken time to update the website to provide you, along with the public, additional information on what we're doing. Oh, that seems to be incorrect. Okay, there we go. Some things that we wanted to bring your attention to is in the second paragraph, there's a link to the listening and learning sessions from Tapiak Consulting. And those really highlight what many of our BIPOC community members are saying, that how they view climate equity and define it, and how they see the city supporting some of their work and supporting their need to build resiliency. In the fourth paragraph, there's a link to the climate justice map. And we worked with the IT department on this map to identify which communities we wanted to have listening and learning sessions in. Those identifiers, those metrics that we use include the climate resilience assessment, our work in the climate resilience assessment, so all the climate threats. We also use the CDC Social Vulnerability Index. In addition to that, we use the Heat Vulnerability Index. And the Heat Vulnerability Index, just as a reminder, is also a part of the climate resilience assessment, but the data we used is also from the Urban Forestry Commission. So we could kind of, overlap that work and make sure that that was a part of the information. And energy burden, that's a lot of the work that we as a city are focused on. And also an identifier for our work with the state and the utility when discussing LMI and BIPOC community members and the needs to provide renewable energy in those arenas. So I encourage you to play and tool around with the map. You can put your address in and it'll rank the sum of the scores of the variables that the analysis includes. We are a little behind in our work, and that is because we really are allowing our BIPOC community members to lead these efforts. And what we continue to hear from them is that they are in a state of emergency. And the first emergency is the pandemic and the political social unrest that took place in the city. And that moved into mobilizing their community to go out and vote. And now they're working with community members to help ensure that they are a part of the vaccinations that are taking place. What I find really commendable about this work with them is to hear how close-knit their communities are. But through that, through the map here, we've been able to identify the top 4 communities that we want to work with, and we'll be going into story circles. Something else that we're really proud of is our grant from the Urban Sustainability Directors Network, which is helping us pay community members for a lot of the work that they're doing. So, for example, Photo Voice will be working with Word on the Street, and in that particular instance, the teens and youth of that community will be taking pictures of their understanding of climate equity and climate resilience. I think I want to be able to use the words, we're looking forward to what it is that they bring to the table. And also, I'm sure that it will be eye-opening to have visuals of their experiences. So just wanted to provide everybody an update. I know that there have been questions about, how it's progressing and coming along. I can also tell you that the listening and learning session and the feedback we received, we've been able to get that into some feedback loops, working with the city manager's office and figuring out how we get that information as a part of reparations, as a part of reimagining the police. It's also been submitted to the budget team as we look at this upcoming budget. So, and as well, IT, and talking about from the new office, working around data. So just to let you know kind of how it's being incorporated into the city. And with that, I think I'll pause and see if anyone has any questions.
Keith, you raised your hand. Go ahead.
Thank you, Amber. Very interesting work and very appreciated. And I have a few questions, but my first question is about this, looking at the next steps at the bottom there. Is Tepeyac Consulting continuing with the work, or who is leading the next steps, or is it community members themselves that have now identified how the work moves forward?
It's a little bit of both, right? We want to, when following the GARE model toolkit, we want to make sure that we are allowing our members to lead. And also the goal is for the city to be able to come up to create a screening tool to be applied to all of our plans that have been adopted. So the screening tool will be a part of the second cycle of funding. So the second phase of the work.
Great. Just another quick question about going back to the map. And I was just looking at the map. It looks really interesting. And it uses information from climate resilience assessment. I'm just wondering how that all weighed out. And I know there's some detail in there, but is flooding weighted on the same level as heat threat, or is heat threat elevated in the way it's weighted in that map?
The climate threats are elevated based on the degree of the flooding or the degree of the heat index.
Okay, yeah, I was just wondering if the heat got a double weighting, because it probably appears in the climate index, the climate resilience assessment, as well as its own category. But that looks really interesting. And then one last question about that. In terms of some of these conditions are changing, and I know it's not this year, but I'm wondering if there's a thought about when is the next stage in which some of these elements are assessed to sort of get a better understanding of how the conditions are changing that we assessed, or that you assessed 3 years ago for the climate resilience assessment.
To date, we do not have any plans to do that. That's not on our radar at the moment. But good point, and something to take note of.
Thanks.
Amber, just a quick question. You may have said this and I just missed it. Is the process pretty much on schedule despite the challenges, or is the timetable you have here a little bit out of sync?
The timetable has been updated, and for the reasons I listed, we are behind schedule. Not a big deal, but
yeah. Okay. Just wanted to know. Thank you. That's no problem.
okay.
Are there any other questions? Well, I'll just say thank you for even moving forward with this project. I know regardless of all the hurdles that we all had to overcome in 2020. So thank you, Amber, for moving forward with this work. It's very important. I know our community really appreciates it.
You bet. Looking forward to the next steps.
All right. So item number 4, we'll move on to the agenda. It's called New Business. And 4A is welcoming and introducing our new SACEE members. So I just wanted to take a minute here to introduce Tim Orman, Stephen Barron, Tim Austin. I'd love it if you all would take a minute to introduce yourselves, and of course the group can say, have a discussion or comment period on this as well. So Tim, why don't you go first?
Sure. I guess first of all, thank you for inviting me to be part of SACEE. I've known about SACEE from the beginning, and finally got my chance to serve. I know I've known some of you, like Anna, for quite a while, maybe almost 14 years, Anna, Amber, Kiara, Keith. My professional background is as a civil engineer and water resources engineer, and I've kind of worked around the country from New England to California, and the last 14 years out of Asheville. I have my own consulting firm called Hydrocycle Engineering, specializing in watershed hydrology, green infrastructure, stormwater management. And then about 2 years ago, started a hopefully soon to be B corporation called Blue Earth Planning, Engineering, and Design. And we're kind of a mission-driven company that does a lot of work for nonprofits at reduced rates, focusing on water quality, ecological restoration. And I also have an interest in our local food system. I've served on the Food Policy Council with Kiara, focusing on water-related issues. And also have a background in permaculture, so that's, I think, can be helpful in terms of like a whole systems interdisciplinary approach to thinking. So I'm glad to be here with you all and welcome any questions.
Keith, is your hand up a new raised hand, or is that an old raised hand?
It must be old. I don't know how to lower it. Let me just, oh, there it is.
All right.
Maybe he's just giving me a high five. I'll give you one back.
High five.
Well, thank you so much, Tim, for volunteering to serve on SACEE. We're really excited to have you on board.
Thank you.
All right. How about Stephen? Do you prefer Steve or Stephen?
That was actually the most important subject that I was planning to address. It's Steve.
Steve.
Yes, only my mother called me Stephen, but it's Steve for everybody else. Thank you, and I'm very glad to be here, and I look forward to getting to know you all and to work with you. My background, I guess I'm a newbie in two senses. One, obviously, to this committee. Also, my wife and I have been in Asheville, East Asheville, only really for the better part of 2 years now. Before that, we spent many years in Austin, Texas. And I spent many years while there in the field of energy regulatory law. I spent some 20 years as appellate counsel to the Texas Public Utility Commission back in somewhat earlier times, but I was there through extraordinarily interesting time of when the electric utilities there, which were vertically integrated, like Duke Energy Progress, were restructured so that we have a more of a competitive system in Texas. And then after representing the PUC, I spent the last 11 years before coming here with my own law practice in the renewable energy area. had mostly wind and some storage clients. And it was the right time for me anyway, because Texas had just passed a new law that provided for figuring out how to get renewable energy from the windy areas and also the sunny areas to build transmission lines to the cities. So I was involved with that it really was a 10 some year process. So it might therefore not come as a great surprise to you that my interest here lies, if I can, to pitch in as I can to help work with Chris and Keith and Bridget, perhaps on some of the issues on the challenge to meet the goal of 100% renewables, and as supplemented really by the climate emergency resolution, which in addition to equity issues also calls for trying to achieve 100% renewables citywide, not just municipal operations. Big challenges. I think it's maybe I'm being too optimistic. I think it's a great moment to do this because we have important changes. Just yesterday, some of you all may know this, the DC Circuit Court of Appeals vacated the power plant emissions rule that the Trump administration had adopted to replace the Obama Clean Energy Plan, and it's been remanded to the EPA, and fresh start on that. And then, of course, I think we should not let this moment go past when we are, I think, if it hasn't been done already, that there will be an order signed, perhaps today, ordering the United States as a whole to rejoin the Climate Paris Accord. So it's a good time, and I hope that those sorts of things will help provide additional support, both in the way of funding and maybe changes in regulatory authority that can help Asheville achieve the goals that it wants to achieve. So that's why I'm in. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Steve. Vote for Steve. I'm just kidding. We're really excited to have you on board. And I know we all share in your excitement for the new change across the political spectrum, I'm sure. So it's going to be nice new 4 years to look forward to. And I hope that it really can help all of our goals as well. All right, Kim Austin, why don't you introduce yourself? And is it Kim or Kim? Just kidding.
All right. Okay. So I've got multiple devices going. Do you hear an echo?
No, we can hear you well.
Coming in clear.
Awesome. So I'm Kim Austin. I've been in Asheville about 20 years in food, hospitality, and food service for about 35, I guess. I'm excited to join this group, especially at this time. I agree. This is an exciting time. So I started down in the sustainability rabbit hole about, 12, 15 years ago. Worked with several local restaurants to get green certified. And, I'm just happy to be here and see where this takes us.
Great. Thanks so much, Kim. We're excited to have you on board and all of your knowledge on food and waste sustainability will be certainly a welcome addition to our group. All right. Does anyone have any questions for these 3 new members or have anything else to add?
Just another welcome and looking forward to having some fresh eyes on all of the things that you've been working on and and getting to know each of you. Thank you.
Yeah, and hopefully it's not always going to be virtual. You know, maybe one day we'll be back to in-person meetings, which will be a lot more comfortable, I think, especially for you newbies coming on board. And then hopefully eventually we'll also do some kind of in-person social events soon, so we all get vaccinated. All right. So the next item on our agenda under new business is 4B, and we get to welcome another new member to our group, and that's our new City Council liaison, Councilwoman Sage Turner.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for introducing everyone, and welcome to the new people. I am sorry, I'm in a shared room.
No worries. I think we all know the struggles there. Give her a second while she walks outside.
We'll get outside. It's a nice day anyways. It's a nice new day, right? I feel a little celebratory today. I'm excited to join and be your liaison. I have not had a lot to do with Stacy in the past, but I think some of my life's work and interests overlap. So I'm very excited to join y'all. Thanks for the intros and meeting the new people. I'm still getting caught up on some of your action plans and past minutes and things. And it looks like you hadn't been meeting for a while. So just kind of catching up. But congratulations to everybody today on some new leadership and some very hopeful environmental policies to follow. So thanks.
Thank you, and welcome, Sage. We're really excited to have you on board. And if anyone has worked with Sage in the past, I can vouch for her go-getter attitude. And she's going to be a great person to have on our team for sure. All right, the next item under new business is 4C for those following along. Discussion and recommendation of SACEE representative for the Blue Horizons project. All right, and Chris, would you like to take this one away?
Oh, sure. So, certainly a topic we've discussed for quite some time now. And, with Julie leaving, she's now gone, but there's now an opening for SACEE to be on the Blue Ridge Horizons Project Community Council, bit of a mouthful. And, there was a thought to have me. I kind of volunteered to act as that liaison. I was starting to get involved when it was the EITF before it's now the Blue Ridge Community Project. And, certainly there's a lot of topics as it relates to, what we talk about and some of my experience professionally. And it seems like an appropriate position for me to have. And I'd be happy to relay the talking points on those meetings to the groups that are on this call or the people on this call for those who can't make those calls, because I know some of you attend those calls as well. And yeah, there's a lot of exciting things that they talk about, and I think there's considerable overlap with what we do. So I think there's an opportunity here for me to participate in that group.
Are we voting to have you as our official representative?
I see Amber nodding her head, so I think that is the, I'm not sure if it's appropriate for me to ask for a motion, but I believe that is the
I'll
request.
I'll ask for you, Chris. Okay, so yeah, Chris is right. And Keith is right. We need to vote on this matter to nominate Chris to be our representative for the HPCC. And we need a motion. Oh, Amber was raising her hand.
Just as a reminder, when after the motion passes, if indeed it does, you'll need to unmute yourselves and say yay or nay. We've done this once before, but just want to send a reminder out because we have some newcomers. Apologize for the interruption.
Thank you, Amber. It's always good to be reminded. Okay, especially since this is my first time doing this leading a meeting. So, all right, I see Keith. It looks like you want to make a motion, maybe?
I am happy to make a motion to have Chris Pelrine represent SACEE on the Blue Ridge Horizons Community Council project. I got that wrong. Blue Ridge Horizons Project Community
Blue
Council.
Horizons, just Blue Horizons.
Oh,
No
right.
Ridge.
No Blue Ridge. Thank you very much. Let me restate that. I nominate Chris Pelrine to represent SACEE on the Blue Horizons Project Community Council.
Good job. All right, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Allison. Okay, now I'm going to go down the list to see who, if you approve or deny this. Oh, we can discuss first, I think. Anyone have any questions, comments, discussion? All right. So I'm going to go down the list of voting members of SACEE and I guess Allison Ormsby, do you approve or yay or nay?
Approve.
Thank you. Ann Keller,
Approve.
Chris Pelrine.
I approve.
Thank you, Chris. Kim Austin.
Approve.
Thank you, Kim. Maggie Gulick.
Approve.
Thank you, Maggie. Steve Barron.
Yay.
Thank you, Steve, for the proper use of the word. Just kidding. And Tim Orman.
Yay.
Thank you, Tim. And Keith McDade.
Yay.
Okay. And I also approve. Yay. I don't. So congratulations, Chris, for being our new representative for the Blue Horizons Project Community Council.
Well, thank you.
And like you said, we have, this is our chair, this is our representative seat on the council. However, all are welcome to attend, to listen in on the meetings, and help Chris where we can to especially get, good group representation there and perspective. All right, moving on to the next item under new business, which is item number 4D, is our waste reduction subcommittee. A sub item under that is to review and consider a letter of support for the sanitation division. And Maggie is going to talk to us about this item.
Yes. Hi. Thank you, Anna. Okay. So, Allison and I worked with the sustainability office, and we also had several meetings with the sanitation division itself to discuss these issues that are addressed in the letter. It presented itself as an opportunity to support the sanitation division in their request to extend a contract that currently exists with Curbside Management. And with that, we rolled in sort of a bid for additional support for the sanitation division, specifically through more financial resources. So I guess hopefully everyone's had a chance to look at it. I'm happy to sort of just touch on the main points. And then if you have questions, we can discuss from there. Does that sound good? That was sort of a rhetorical question, but feel free to speak up if you don't like that plan. So essentially, the city of Asheville has an existing contract with Curbside Management for a variety of reasons. Most pointedly, the pandemic. It's going to be easier for us to or the city rather, to continue the existing contract because it will minimize the fees going up. Starting a new contract right now would potentially open the city up to higher tipping fees. And a lot of that has to do with the pandemic. A lot of it has to do with the recycling markets right now. And one of the other benefits of continuing the contract is that Curbside Management will be able to continue to offer recycling services, whereas a lot of other haulers and bidders are not starting new recycling contracts, that's my understanding, at least. And I think that's just because of the current state of global recycling markets. We can't just ship everything overseas at the moment. So in the way that we did. I don't have any more details on that aspect of it. So we're basically saying there's continuity, keeps prices down. We ensure the continuation of recycling services. But then additionally, we would like to see more funding for the sanitation division, as has been requested in the past, because they are already stretched quite thin as it stands and have been for several years, with very low service fees. But additional funding would allow them to create a master plan, a solid waste master plan, which does not currently exist, and would provide for better long-term planning, as well as additional resources in the form of a waste reduction specialist who would be able to implement hopefully some innovative public engagement projects, which would include education and engaging underserved communities within the city of Asheville. And I think that might speak to some of the same communities that Amber was talking about earlier, the climate justice issues. And so that's essentially what we're talking about here, is readdressing some budget requests that we've had in the past to support sanitation division, and we're sort of just asserting that here in this letter. And it's just an overall support for the sanitation division, as their work is not as sexy as other work that goes on, but it's vital and addresses a lot of the things that are quite important: food waste, recycling streams, reducing our overall waste, and just awareness of all that at the civic, at the person to person level. So, yeah, that's it in a nutshell. And I'm not sure if we need to vote on it, or I think we're just getting feedback at the moment.
Yeah, it looks like we're just reviewing and considering this letter.
Yeah.
However, if we're ready to vote on it, I don't know, Amber, what are your thoughts?
Yes, it would be great if everyone was on the same page, and if that's the case, then you trust the waste reduction team to make any sort of edits that you may want to include, and go ahead and vote that this is something that you would feel that the Sustainability Advisory Committee is comfortable doing, and go from there. So yes to a vote.
Great. Allison, I know you helped work on this. Do you have any other comments to add?
Sure. I mean, so we did meet with Jess from the city, who has a lot of insight and offered helpful input. So rest assured that this went through several revisions and has been thoughtfully handled. So obviously I support it as it reads right now.
Great, thank you. All right, it looks like we have some comments coming in. Keith, you have a question?
I have a question and a comment. First of all, apologies to Blue Horizons Project Community Council. I work with them regularly and I can't even get the words right. But anyway, thank you for correcting me. And at some point, but not right now, I want to get some clarification about how long Chris's term is with them. I don't know if we talked about that. But addressing this waste issue now, I have a question, which is about why wouldn't we do this? I mean, it seems inevitable that we need a contract. So supporting the contract seems to make sense, and it seems like vendors have been vetted. If there are any reasons why we should consider and explore why we wouldn't do this, I'd like to hear them, and I just don't know what they are. And then my comment is, I don't know how strongly the letter makes the point that right up front that more funding is needed for an additional position. It's in there, but I would, if I was going to make that loud and clear, I would say these are the two things we want right up in front, which is a continuation of the contract and more funding for this position, rather than having to dig a little to get to them. And that's just my thought.
Fair enough. Thank you, Keith. I'll just jump in quickly. I'm sure that Kira, Amber, you might have other input, Allison. I think you make a good point about, stating the need for funding up front. I think there's more conversation to be had about that. And I think the main thing, the main issue about the contract itself is that it would deviate from the normal operation of, the way that they normally handle these kinds of contracts. Usually there's, a limited time you can apply for an extension. And I think that's what this would be. It would be an extension of the existing contract. So I don't know that it really needs our support to be approved. I think it's just us sort of re-highlighting the need that Sanitation Division has. And then
I would also just say that as a reminder, it really is a letter of support for the continuation of the contract. So that is why the funding, isn't first and foremost. The purpose of the letter is to complement the need for continuing on with the contract with Curbside Management.
Mm-hmm. Versus the idea of taking it back out to the market and putting it out to bid to other vendors and other haulers.
That's correct,
right.
Yes.
Yep. And also, just so I'm aware, the Sanitation Division that's cited in this article, that's the city, it's a city position. So not only were you asking to extend the contract, but we're also requesting to add a budget item to add a staff member to the city budget for this division, correct?
Yes, that would be folded in the funding. That would also include working on the master plan.
Okay.
But essentially, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I was clarifying a few things before the meeting with Jess. I think waiting to flesh, so she's just sort of clarifying, waiting to flesh out a longer term contract when recycling markets are more stable would be, it would allow us to make more informed decisions about pricing for collecting.
Have we ever received any feedback from Curbside Management about what the single stream recycling contamination rate is like? Is that data that the city gets?
I think Jess does have some of that information. I don't know how detailed it is.
Is that Kirby? Is Curbside also known as Kirby?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it is.
Kirby has a 5% contamination rate, which is extremely low.
Wow.
That's their reporting that, Keith, or sorry?
I heard that from the owner of Kirby when I visited maybe a year ago. So maybe that's not reflective of the pandemic, but that was their average for years.
It would be great to see a report on that.
Yeah, my understanding is that the recycling streams are quite contaminated, and that there's more education around that is needed.
That was also my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And that Kirby's ending up having to pay tipping fees to get rid of the contaminated tonnage.
And I'm not totally clear on how they're handling all their recyclables. now, all the volume at the moment, but we could look into that. But I don't know that that needs to be part of this letter.
I have a couple of questions that probably reflect my my ignorance and lack of context. One is I just don't know what are the proposed contract amendments notable in any respect, or are they or is this basically just nothing more than a continuation of the existing contract that we're promoting? And my second, well, let me leave it at that. I had one other question as well.
Well, feel free to ask that too.
Okay.
I answer your first question quickly though, and that is,
Yeah.
yes, it's just an extension.
Okay.
I don't think there's nothing, significant changing about it.
Yeah.
I think the reason it's exceptional that we're even talking about it is because it does go against the standard operating procedure, which would be to put it back out for bid.
Right. Makes sense. The other question I had is, and again, this reflects my lack of background, is that we note that we've advocated for increased funding in the past, and it hasn't happened. Has the sanitation division itself, I don't know how the process works, I'm just asking, has the sanitation division itself requested additional funding for the solid waste master plan and hiring this new position? And I get to add one more question. Do we have any, would it be worthwhile if we can come up with any numbers or approximations to give the city council a sense of what we're talking about? And if I've stepped in it, I apologize.
No, you haven't. And I feel like I can answer that part of the way, and then I might need to send it over to Amber. But I do know, yes, the sanitation division has requested additional funding.
Okay. Good.
And I do know that they struggle to maintain just their basic, trash collection staff. And I don't want to say too much on that without knowing more details. But yes, that has been requested, and it was not successful. And we do have some numbers around that we put together last year in the support, an additional statement of support. I don't know, Amber, do you want to add anything?
No, that covers it. I think as we've worked over the years with the sanitation division and identified areas to further waste reduction goals, there have been opportunities to let city council members know needs, and in addition to that, the sanitation division has also, proposed fee changes through, they do that often, and we continue to bring those to council.
And Amber, my understanding is that the fees are quite low compared to relatively sized cities. Is that correct?
That's true. Yes. But at the end of the day, it's a part of the budget, and, we bring those to city council.
Hey, do you have a question?
Just real quick, just an FYI, the link I got for this agenda is broken and says it's in the owner's trash. And the document set that was in that email takes me to all of these documents, but this letter that we're talking about, letter of support, is locked and I cannot read it. I have not read it. And I can hear you talking in council and budget things, but I can't read that. So if someone could send it to me, that would be helpful.
Let me correct that.
Okay, thanks.
Immediately. I apologize.
And just so I'm aware, so is it the total cost of this service that's passed down to residents? Because there is a line item on my water bill for sanitation charges. What percentage of the cost of this service is passed down to residents?
I think we would need to get the sanitation division manager to answer a lot of these questions. I want us to go back to the letter of support that we were really to be discussing. We're kind of getting into areas where we would want to have Jess Foster here to be able to help answer some of those questions.
But it's my understanding from prior conversations with Jess that city residents don't cover the entirety, the cost of the true cost of recycling for this city, from what I understand, or we're nowhere close to it, from what I understand. And then another note on true cost for this position and more resources for the sanitation division. I also understand that, we're not including those numbers in this letter. However, City Council has received those numbers in the past. I imagine Jess Foster's and Sanitation Division will provide that in their budget request, or we'll just refer to a prior budget request that has been sent to City Council in the past. But I agree with Amber. Let's focus in on essentially the wording of this letter, whether we want to approve to send this letter of support. So are there any questions on that front or for Maggie and Allison or Amber, for that matter? Keith, you still have your hand raised. Is that a new question?
I have a question, and it's about additional budget considerations that we might want to recommend between now and budget time that might even have to do with waste. And I'm just wondering, and I'm guessing that if you've already discussed with Jess, these are less important. But I know in the past, one of our I think there was a vote last year about raising the fees so that it would cover more of what the city does or doesn't pay for garbage and recycling, and so it's about garbage. But I'm just wondering, I guess the basic question is, are there other budget considerations that should also be in this letter so that we don't have to send multiple letters?
That's what I was going to ask as well. So I'm understanding that you all are contacting council in support of this particular item, but are you possibly going to be requesting other things? And if so, I would consider putting them together. I also I think it was Keith early on when I couldn't see the letter that was talking about at the top, addressing it with what your goal is. It might help. And I just say that coming as a new person, but there are 4 of us that are new and we're getting a lot of emails. And if you could flag this document as, budget request 2021, give us some kind of heads up. I think that would be helpful in getting the attention. And I'll certainly, as your liaison, push this to other counselors and say, hey, these are the budget requests. But I think organizing in that way would help.
Sage, is that the way that the budget team is asked to hear from boards and commissions?
There's a more standard process that it's going through you, right, Amber?
No.
Okay. I'm not sure, but I know that. Go ahead.
I would recommend that we table the discussion on making recommendations to council members until we hear from the budget division and the city manager's office on if that is something that they are going to encourage boards and commissions to do this fiscal year. So it has been done in the past, but
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. I've certainly, as a chair of other boards in the past, have always sent on a letter of recommendation to council with the boards, not only requests around, sometimes it's diversifying the committee, growing the committee, but it's also funding, priorities, and so on. I'm not sure if that's how you do that. And I didn't mean to interrupt your process, but because is there maybe more to this? Does this company need notification sooner than we'll be budgeting? Is that why this is separate?
So yes, this is separate simply because it's just a letter of support saying that, the sustainability, if indeed this is the way you all go, that the Sustainability Advisory Committee is in support of continuing on with our curbside management contract. So quite different than, talking about budget. What I am hearing is that the opportunity to speak to budget requests or how the Sustainability Advisory Committee would want to express to City Council where they feel very strongly about budget recommendations will be through the annual report. And so the annual report is something that the chair is working on, and it's due March 6th. So I think that doesn't answer the question, you know, like of having the discussion in this moment, but that is the avenue per the city clerk's office that the Sustainability Advisory Committee is able to make those recommendations.
I guess it seems like there's just confusion over, is this a letter of support for the extension of the contract or is it, you know, an ask for resources?
Right.
And maybe that's confusing. We were trying to sort of do two things at once there. I don't know. Should we have more conversation about that, Amber? Or is this, you know, is this just as kind of hope from us at the moment? And maybe we need to talk about that a little bit more.
Well, I think, as I said, you know, the idea is a letter of support for the city to continue on and extend the contract with Curbside Management. And I think when she goes to council to propose the extension of the contract, she was asking for a letter of support from the Sustainability Advisory Committee. So I would say focused on that.
Okay.
Are there any other questions or comments regarding this letter of support?
The last question I have that I don't feel like has been asked, but Maggie, in your conversations and the other people on the Waste Committee, in your conversations with the applicable parties, are people generally, do they approve of the service that we are receiving from Curbside Management? Are they happy with the service?
My general understanding was that, yes. I mean, I think they're doing about as well as anyone could with kind of the parameters that are in place right now. I don't know. I do think it's significant that either way, they are able to continue the recycling service, whereas that would not be guaranteed with any other bidder at this particular time.
Sure. That is a major hurdle.
That's all I can say about that. I'm not entirely sure. I don't think it's perfect, but.
Ann Keller's got a question or a comment.
Well, I'm listening to the back and forth. It occurs to me that if the issue is about asking for two things, a staff person versus continuing the contract, if that's the problem, maybe the most important thing is to support the contract right now and not ask for a staff member. That would just mean you'd have to edit a little bit of this letter. And maybe that's something we could, I don't know, approve based on removal of that. Or I'm just thinking when you start going through the roll call, you're going to be asking people yay or nay. And it seems like there's a little disconnect about what we're trying to do. And so maybe we need to finish that up. Do we keep both of them in there, or we get rid of the staff person and just support the continuation of the contract?
Yeah, and an idea that I had, and on that note, is perhaps we include that request for the additional staff member in our annual report, where we officially ask for more budget. Other budget items as well.
Yeah.
So that might be a compromise here for those folks who are uncomfortable with that section of the letter of support.
And
Keith,
you
did you
think
have
potentially?
Go ahead, Maggie.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not raise my hand. So you think sort of rolling that ask into additional specific budgetary requests would be more effective? Is that kind of what you're thinking? Like additional letter later on focused on a budget request.
That's just an option. It sounds like Sage being our liaison might. It sounded like she might prefer that, to have it kind of all laid out in one thing instead of piecemeal together from different letters of support.
I mean, about that, as far as I'm concerned, I just defer to Amber and her, what she understands is Jess's hope will be the most, useful thing for her currently.
I think,
you go, Amber.
well, answering Maggie's question, I think right now it's the letter of support. And I think based on the information we received from the city clerk's office and Sage's comments on condensing or having all of the recommendations around a budget be put into the annual report.
Okay. So do we want to, how does it work? Can we approve this letter with changes? Is that what we would do?
Yes.
Okay.
I have one additional question that has to do with the potential artificial urgency that's caused by us not meeting regularly. And if we miss this opportunity, might we miss an opportunity to effectively get this message in about the importance of funding this role? And so I don't know when we get to meet again, because it's been very sporadic, and unless we have a different sense of that, it might make sense to do what we can when we can do it, and even if it's more difficult, and just make clear what our wishes are. That's just a thought.
That's a good point, Keith. It's my understanding that we now that Amber and other Office of Sustainability staff know how to run these meetings, we have a little bit more leeway in being able to meet. However, we still have to meet those requirements for meeting, which is it can't just be to meet. We have to be able to meet in order to vote on something. So if we put together an annual report with budget recommendations that we all want to vote on, I say that's good grounds for another meeting, perhaps even next month. What do you think, Amber?
I think what we had said was every other month.
That's right. We did. That was a goal. We definitely wanted to try to at least shoot for every other month. But because this annual report's due on March 6th,
I think the other options are for you to email Anna and Ann directly the recommendations that you would want to make and see as a part of the budget. And I think for those folks that are new, there are you should have access to previous annual reports and previous notes as well around or letters that have gone to city council, so you'd be able to see those too.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We can move forward with the annual report, and we don't have to necessarily have a meeting for it. We can certainly get a lot done through the email system.
Does that mean then that we would at some point, maybe March, I don't know what the time frame is for the budget discussions, whether that's already started with the city council, but we would package all of those with the annual report and submit them? Do we need to have approval of all the members of SACEE to do that? Or can it just go in as an annual report? It seems like we'd want to all weigh in on that. And that would be a meeting, right? And maybe March, is that okay?
Yeah.
Well, it's
I also think we don't have enough information. I want to get us back on track. I appreciate the discussion around budget. However, I haven't received enough information from the budget division and the city manager's office to help guide this conversation. So I have no timeline at all, but I can tell you that we will keep everyone informed, and I would recommend that we go back to the agenda because we're way off. We're way off at this point, and really, I want to be able to help and provide information, but I don't have that information yet.
Yeah, Anna, Amber, it just sounds like we need to cut the two parts up separate, the continuation of the contract and the staff, and just approve the letter based on removing those parts about the staff member in there, approving it and moving on. That's how it sounds like we're gonna, or not do anything, but it seems like that's doable.
That's correct.
Yeah, let's just do it.
Okay, so then it sounds like we want to send this letter of support. However, we want to modify it to exclude the section about the budget and the additional staff member.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll need a motion.
I move to approve this letter of support once the references to additional staff needs are removed.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Chris. Now, we can discuss further, or we can move on to the vote if there are no other questions. Chris, or Keith, you still have your hand raised. All right.
Sorry about that. I was high-fiving once again, but I don't have anything to say. I was hoping we would add to it rather than take away from it, rather than pull apart. But I think we don't have enough information to do that. So I won't make a comment.
And I think we can certainly save the verbiage from this letter and include it on the annual report. So don't delete it, Maggie. Just cut it and paste it somewhere else.
I shan't, and I shall.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to go down the list, and you're going to give me a yay or nay on whether you support to send this letter of support with the said modifications. Allison Ormsby.
Yay.
Thank you, Allison. Ann Keller.
Yay.
Chris Pelrine.
Yay.
Kim Austin.
Yay.
Maggie Gulick.
Yay.
Steve Barron.
Yay.
Tim Orman.
Yay.
Keith McDade.
Yay.
And I also vote yay. Great. We'll look forward to getting that letter of support in.
Quick question. Who seconded that motion?
Chris.
Chris did.
Christopher.
Thank you.
All right. So it is 4:43. We have about 17 minutes to go through our next item on the agenda, which is recommendation of proclamation on Food Matters grant. And Allison is going to lead the discussion on this matter.
Great. So as you may be aware, there's been a lot of work in our region about reducing food waste, including the Food Waste Solutions Summit last January. And there was an attempt at the state level last year to do a proclamation to proclaim the month of April Food Waste Reduction Month. But due to COVID last year, that was set aside. So our subcommittee has been working with Kira and others to develop a proclamation for the city of Asheville. So it's a proclamation saying that proposing that the city of Asheville declare April Food Waste Reduction Month, along with, all the fanfare and, social media posts and efforts to really reduce our food waste, which we know contributes to other things like greenhouse gas emissions and food insecurity. And there's lots of connections, sustainability connections. So we provided you with the text that Maggie and I and others worked on to develop an Asheville specific proclamation. and it's going to go to city council. But what we like is that SACEE endorse it. And then we're also seeking endorsements from other places like UNC Asheville, some other nonprofit organizations in the city. So we welcome any comments on the proclamation, and then would like to see if SACEE is willing to support the idea, endorse it.
Can I just quickly say, we received some comments from Steve earlier, and I appreciate that. It was about the citations, and I have done my best to address those. There's still a few outstanding things, but those will be addressed.
Thanks for the close read.
Yes, much appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
We'll double check that again many times.
Looks like Anne.
Anne has a question. Yep.
Yeah, I wanted to just wonder, I was wondering, what are the outcomes that would you measure any outcomes from this, or what are the ramifications of the proclamation? Of course, we understand from what you said, Allison, that there would be more PR about it and more awareness, but are there any things that we would be able to, measure as a result of the effort, you think?
That is a great question. Is Kira still here? Where's Kira? Can you comment?
Sure, I'm here. Hi.
Okay.
Yeah, what I can comment is the proclamation specifically does not have measurable outcomes beyond the delivery of the proclamation. It sort of supports other efforts that are a part of our Food Matters cohort participation in the Southeast, which have more measurable outcomes, and that would be presented some in partnership with the proclamation as we sort of roll out programming around community outreach and a couple other initiatives that we are moving forward through the Food Matters campaign. But the proclamation itself, I'm sorry?
I'm not sure everybody on SACEE or on the call knows about the Food Matters grant. And maybe you could just briefly explain what that grant is. So I think, Anne, that is one of the outcomes, is that Kira is working with a cohort of different cities on this initiative.
Yeah, and that's great. And I do want to hear about that. I just wondered if there are locally at the moment, or any ways that you could think of ahead of time, because of this proclamation and the better information that's out there, are we either able to gather any more data that would be helpful? It's nice to do the proclamation and improve awareness. That really helps a lot. If there were numbers you could get somewhere along the line as a result of this particular proclamation connected to it somehow, that'd be great. But please go ahead, Kira.
Sure. I don't want to take up too much time in this agenda, and I think we may have more time to get into the details. But very briefly, we're a part of the Natural Resource Defense Council's Southeast cohort of the Food Matters program, along with Nashville, Atlanta, Orlando, and Memphis are also cities that are developing programming around food waste reduction and trying to think about that on a regional level while implementing on a local level at the city. And so, yes, I agree with you, Anne. And much of our work with NRDC as the kind of guiding entity for this program is helping us to think through metrics that are achievable, baseline estimates. Some of the information that's in the proclamation are based on some baseline calculations that they've been able to provide us with through secondary data. And trying to think about what do we lift up that's already happening as part of the initiative, and what are we able to pursue and measure on our own going forward.
Thanks.
Keith, you got a question, comment?
Quick question, comment. I like it a lot, so thank you for doing this. The proclamation, it makes sense to me. I'm wondering, it's clear to me when I read it that it's about wasted food. Food waste is wasted food. I know there's a small and growing movement to reframe food waste as wasted food. Has that become part of your conversation? Is that something that we care about in the proclamation?
I don't think we've specifically incorporated that, but I think it's a good idea.
I mean, I think we do address food insecurity. And it is about wasted food, but it's also, there's wasted food at every level of the the chain, so to speak. And we are talking about, at the consumer level here. So I don't know. Kira, what do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea that we can consider. I think that the language matters, especially as we're trying to divert the conversation to not only be about compost, but also about proactive measures to reduce food waste on the front end of the pyramid. So I think that that could be some important semantics that might help to underscore that this is a long food chain, and there's places of disruption and interruption throughout.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions or comments on the verbiage of this proclamation? All right, well, let's, I guess, we'll incorporate Keith's comments, but we'll need a motion to recommend this proclamation.
I'll make a motion to recommend this proclamation. I like it.
Thank you, Keith. Is anyone willing to second Keith's motion?
Chris will second.
Thank you, Chris. All right, is there any further discussion on the proclamation before we take a vote?
I'll just add that I do think it's a great idea for the city to adopt it as like a formal, food reduction or food waste reduction month. And I think it'll provide opportunities to spread the word throughout the community. So I think it's great.
Great. Thank you for all your hard work on this, Allison and Maggie. All right, so we will take it to a vote if there are no other questions or comments and discussions. All right, Allison Ormsby.
Aye.
Ann Keller.
Aye.
Chris Pellrine.
Aye.
Kim Austin.
Aye.
Maggie Gulick. Didn't catch that, Maggie. You might be muted.
I think
There you are.
muted and then I muted myself to say aye. Aye.
Thank you, Maggie. Steve Barron.
Aye.
Tim Orman.
Yay.
Keith McDade.
Yay.
Thank you all. Oh, and I also vote yay. Okay, so it looks like we passed the proclamation. Congratulations, everyone. That's exciting stuff. All right, so we will move on.
One more thing. Kira is going to keep track of all the organizations that support the proclamation. So if you have connections to local organizations that might also want to support it, maybe just let Kira know, or Maggie or me.
Wonderful. That's a good idea. All right, so we will move on to the next agenda item, which is number 5 on the agenda, old business. And this is where we talk about assigning working groups for our new members. And so one mechanism that we utilized last year to get around the fact that we weren't meeting regularly was to break up into 3 different working groups in order to bypass cities' regulations on boards and committees, where if you have more than 4 committee members meeting at one time, it's actually considered an official meeting where you have to hold public comment and have all the necessary parties present. So we have been able to break out into these 3 different working groups and keep our numbers small in order to meet more frequently, keep the ball rolling on a lot of our goals. And last year we decided that those working groups would be waste reduction, which also includes food policy, climate resiliency, and energy. And we invite the new members at this point to
join climate resiliency. That's what we invite them to do, because the other groups already have 3. So there's not a whole lot of room there.
Hey, Ann, I'll jump over and join you. I'll move over to climate resiliency. I love that.
Well, let's see who else is interested, and definitely keep that in mind.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, and perhaps maybe there might be a spokesperson from each working group that wants to, I don't know, give a little talk about why you want to get someone on your team.
Okay, can I give a shout out for waste reduction?
Please go for it, Allison.
Well, I think we only have 2, although Anna can pop in if she wants. So the topics, we're doing solid waste, which you can see from the sanitation letter. We're doing food waste, which you can see from the proclamation. And we're also, as part of solid waste, sort of dealing with some plastic reduction considerations, although COVID's, put them on pause. But if any of that interests you, that's the waste reduction group.
Yeah, and the climate resilience group, in the last year or so, we've done a few things. Like we certainly held and organized that climate emergency community input session. We reviewed the comp plan and resilience plan and kind of tried to fit pieces in there together that would be connected to our focal areas, I guess. We worked on the climate emergency resolution as well to make it a bit more balanced than it started out to be. And we also contributed we had a request, the city had a request, I guess, from Congress to provide input on what we thought would be important elements related to climate that, they should take up and focus on. And so we provided some input on what we thought would be good, and maybe we'll see some of that come to fruition now. But there's a lot of opportunity in the group to, I think, work across with other committees and even sometimes across departments on issues that are connected to climate resilience.
Thank you, Anne.
Yeah, I'd say that the energy group, there's lots of opportunities there for us to figure out a way to best collaborate, with the Blue Horizons Project and other groups and committees across the city. Steve, I'm very excited about your experience and professional history, and I think having the legislative kind of law background would be a good experience to have. So, but yeah, I'll leave it at that.
So I'm going to invite the new members to ask questions, maybe let us know which group they're interested in. And if you don't want to decide right now, we would like to hear that, to hear which group you're interested in sooner rather than later, if that's possible. And Tim, you got a question?
Oh, I was just volunteering to maybe go first.
Great.
I appreciate all of those intros. I think I have some connection to all of them, but the one that probably most strongly connects to my background would be Anne's group, the Climate Resilience Group. I was one of the inaugural members of the Collider, focusing on sort of the relationship between climate resilience, flooding, changes in rainfall, hydrology. So I kind of have a lot of, I think, existing connections in that world.
Yeah, and those are definitely interesting elements, Tim. We can talk about that down the road, but yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome aboard, Tim.
This is Steve. I sort of showed my cards up front. My area of interest and background, I think, makes me best positioned to see if I can make a contribution with the energy group, with Chris, and with Keith if he doesn't jump ship, and working with Bridget as well. So I'd really like to do that and see how I can be of help.
Great. Thanks so much, Steve. Excited to have you join the energy team.
And Kim, could we get you to join the resilience group? Because I think there might be some crossover for you too. Just throwing that out there.
Well, I was actually leaning towards the waste reduction, but it does look like there might be some opportunity in your group, Anne. So, yes, I would love to join it.
That would be great. And, you know, I think it would be great to have you and see how it works out in all of us, you know, and in these groups. There certainly are opportunities to move people around if somebody finds that they don't have a connection or they'd rather be somewhere else. It's not a commitment forever, but I think it'd be nice to start off the year with some discussions about what climate resilience really means to not only those on the group, but also, you know, to SACEE and to the city and how we're going to relate. And there's a lot of work already done that I know Tim is well aware of, and you probably are too, Kim, about this. So, you know, we can talk about a little whatever we might have done in the past and see where we want to go. It'd be great to have some new thoughts.
That's perfect.
Thanks.
Great. Thanks so much, Kim. And now I know Keith did mention he might want to switch teams here. So I guess I will offer this moment to, if anybody else wants to switch their working group, now would be a good time.
But Anna, you can't have 4, I don't think.
That's true. So
really, if you switch, then someone else has to switch. It's a moving target. You really can't.
That's right.
I'm stuck, which is not a bad thing. But I do want to say one thing especially for the new members to consider. One unofficial group that we have that is not really even a group, but was a group in the past, was integrated sustainability. And it's been a long running objective of SACEE to find ways to work across the various agencies or sub-departments within the city and across issues. And I know Tim mentioned something about interdisciplinary background and thinking about the ways in which we can most effectively accomplish a lot of these things. And so in all of these groups, having an eye towards some kind of integrated sustainability is going to be critical. I will say I joined the energy group just in September, and I don't know if I'm the best person to be on that, partly because I don't think I have the expertise, and I just joined because Chris was all alone and back in the day, but I'm happy to stay there, and I think I can still play a role. But if other opportunities present themselves, feel free to call on me. I have also worked with the waste reduction group in my first few years here and climate resiliency in the middle of my term here. So maybe this is where I belong.
And Sage, before you pop in, I just wanted to say one thing about the inter-committee effort. That's something I think we benefited from a little bit in the past, but I think if I were going to propose something, it would be that any of these groups consider where there are connections to other committees and commissions in town, and where you see some connection, have discussions with them. There's nothing wrong or against anything. You can meet with people one-on-one or 1-on-2 or whatever, and just talk about things we're working on and what they're working on and how they might be connected and how we could assist each other. We've done that in a couple of occasions already, and it seemed to be a positive effort. So, in the best concept of integration of these disciplines, having a special group that did that doesn't make as much sense as having all of us do that. And then you really are connecting as you do your normal work rather than having a separate group. So I'd say that all of us ought to be thinking about where our focal points connect to other groups in town, and reach out to their chair or vice chair or somebody else on the committee that we can talk to.
Thanks for that comment, Anne. That's definitely very important, having that integrated component and lens on all the work we do to make sure that we incorporate as many people as we can to make them work much easier in the long run. And one other thing that I'll note is that with each working group, we also get a staff member from the Office of Sustainability. So Kira works with the waste reduction group, Bridget works with the energy group, and Amber works with the climate resiliency group. And these meetings are held regularly for the most part. I know waste reduction has a set time on their calendar. Do the climate resiliency and energy groups have regular meetings as well?
The energy group does not, but that'll be an opportunity for us to change that in 2021.
I met with myself regularly, but I think now that other people are involved, we'll have to figure out how we approach that, Anna.
Thanks, Anne. Great. Well, I'm excited to have these new working groups and new members have a breath of fresh air and some new energy. So I'm really excited to work with everyone. And I, like Allison said, I do join the waste reduction group every once in a while, but I also join the other two groups as well, just to make sure that I keep my finger on the pulse of everything that's going on. But I do kind of oversee the work from more of an administrative level to make sure that I know all the different working components. And so specifically right now, I'm working on the year-end report that is due March 6th. So I certainly will be reaching out to you all, maybe not the new members, but to get your input on that report. I mean, of course, I'll reach out to the new members once it's all wrapped up in a nice, neat bow for you to help me review and look over. But yeah, I will be getting everyone's input on that report soon. All right. Does anyone else have any? Yeah, Allison.
Can I just clarify? Are we planning to have a March meeting? And if yes, what day is it?
Yep. So the goal is to have a meeting every other month this year. So it will be held at the same time as it normally would be, which is the third Wednesday of the month. So you can tentatively expect to have a meeting on March 17th at 3:30. And again, that's whether or not we have an item on the agenda that we need to vote on.
Hey, isn't that the Irish national holiday?
St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, something like that.
Also my namesake day. My middle name is Patricia. My grandmother was born on St. Patrick's Day.
I thought I heard earlier that the annual report was due earlier in March. And how does that require a vote or anything, or how does that work?
So we decided that because it is due before that meeting, it's due March 6th, and that meeting won't be held until March 17th.
Right.
We're going to have to work on this via email instead of in a SACEE official SACEE meeting.
I just want to add that I'm going to check in with Sarah to see if we can turn it in a little later. So,
okay. Great.
To be continued.
There's also one other clarification I'd like to make, which is, I'm not sure, or I want to check on, which is the quorum, which I just heard was if we have 4 people, then it's official. But I think it's actually, if we have 5 people, it's official. 4, I think 4 is still safe. And maybe I'm wrong about that because it's less than the half of the total.
I will. That's why I had my hand up. I was actually just emailing Anna and Sarah Terwilliger. I can never say her name, and copying you, Amber, because my understanding, I may be new on council, but I chair a lot of boards. And in the Downtown Commission, we started 5 subcommittees, much like yours. And the rule was that it couldn't be a majority. And that was it. And for us, that was 6 because we had 11. You have 9. I believe you can have 4 people on these committees, but I've almost hit send on this email, so Sarah can confirm for you.
Great. Thank you, Sage. I appreciate that.
No need to confirm. That is correct.
Cool. So you can add more people.
Just no more than 4, right?
No, you just can't represent a majority of the committee, whatever the committee size.
And because we have 9, that's why. Gotcha.
And your cutoff, yeah.
Very good. Okay, before we move on to the next agenda item, is there anything else to discuss from old business? All right, so the next agenda item is public comment, and I was told that I was going to receive an email if there was any public comment, but I don't think, I'm not seeing anything for me to read. No.
No additional public comment.
Great.
That's a first. That's a first. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Well, I guess this brings us to the end of our meeting and my first meeting as your chair. So I hope I did okay.
Great job.
Especially
Great job.
considering you're sick, Anna, you did a great job. Thank you.
You know, I wasn't going to miss my first one. I couldn't do it.
Get healthy now.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. So we'll need a motion to adjourn. Is that right? Motion.
Not really.
Not really.
No, we don't usually do that.
Yeah.
No. Okay, good. All right.
We make a joke though that if no one votes on it, you have to stay here forever. But
Oh no, please not, Sage.
thanks, y'all. I enjoyed the meeting.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.